Look, I'm gonna be real with you guys. These tips are gonna ruffle some feathers. They're either going to ruffle some feathers because you don't like the tips and you just don't wanna hear them, or it's gonna ruffle some feathers because you're gonna be thinking, Jade, hun, gatekeep, why are you sharing this with the masses? Regardless, this is a must-watch video if you are trying to grow on social media. I also share one tip that is without a doubt the quickest way to grow on any social media platform, like proven without a doubt. So you're gonna wanna stick with me. Before we get to it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button because I upload new content every single week. And this video is sponsored by Later. I'll be telling you all about their amazing platform in just a bit. Tip number one. Let's just rip the band-aid off and start with a good on. Clickbait works. I'm gonna get some hate for this. Clickbait works. It does. Let me give you the actual definition of clickbait, right? Before we get into it, right? Stick with me. The actual definition of clickbait, and I'm literally reading this word for word, is content whose main purpose is to attract attention and encourage visitors to click on a link to a particular web page, right? That's the definition of clickbait. The reason why people will tell you not to use clickbait is because clickbait got a bad rap, right? Clickbait does not have a good PR team. The reason why clickbait has a bad rap, right, is because back in like 2015 times, people used to use clickbait in a really annoying way. So let's take YouTube, for example. People would create thumbnails, which are the little graphics what appear on YouTube videos. You could probably see them on the side of the page right now, right? People would create thumbnails that would have clickbait in it, and the clickbait wouldn't live up to whatever the video was about. So let's say someone creates a thumbnail and they've got like a photo of Kim Kardashian on it, and it says something like, is Kim pregnant? And it's got like a photoshopped pregnant belly of Kim Kardashian. It's just the first thing I could think of. And then when you click on the video, it's about something completely different. Kim Kardashian is not pregnant, and you're actually spending the whole video just talking about your opinions on the Kardashians, right? That is how clickbait used to be used primarily, and that is bad clickbait. And the reason why it's bad is because you are promising something in your cover or in your thumbnail, and you're not delivering on it in the actual video. That is what people have come to believe clickbait is, when actually clickbait is quite literally creating something that makes someone want to click on it. That's what clickbait is. So there's a good way to use clickbait. For example, you guys saw my thumbnail and you clicked on this video. Now granted, some of you, my real OGs, might have just clicked on it because they thought, I wonder what Jade's talking about today. If that was you, let me know in the comments because I appreciate you. But there are other people, especially people who aren't familiar with me yet, who would have clicked on my video because they would have seen my thumbnail, and the text that I used in my thumbnail would have been clickbaity enough to make them want to click on this video. The reason why my clickbait works and why a lot of other creators see success with their clickbait is because we're delivering on what we're promising. So if I'm creating a video where I'm saying top 5 tips to help you grow on Instagram, when you click on that video, if I'm delivering those top 5 tips, then it's good clickbait. At the end of the day, if we are trying to create anything that makes someone want to click on it, there needs to be some element of clickbait. There has to be something that we're saying, or a photo or a graphic that captures someone's attention and makes them want to click, because otherwise no one will click on your content. And if no one clicks on your content, it's not going to perform well. So clickbait works. Let's stop shying away from clickbait. Let's just make sure that if we're ever using clickbait, we're actually delivering on whatever it is that we're promising. Tip number 2, batching is your best bet at consistency. Yes, I said it. This is not changing, and I cannot see this going anywhere in the near future, right? If you're not familiar with batching, the concept is that you create a lot of content in advance and then you schedule it out so that you know when it's supposed to go out on specific days. I live by batching. Most creators that I know who are successful also batch their content. There is a bit of a narrative that has sprung up recently where people are saying, don't batch because it impacts your creativity. And whilst I totally understand where they're coming from, for most of us, it is very difficult for us to be consistent on social media, especially for across multiple channels, if we are not batching content. Because then what happens when you don't batch your content is you've got to think of something to post on a daily or a weekly basis, write the caption then and there and share it. And I'm willing to bet a lot of you guys who have done that process before, or who might be doing it right now, are not very consistent, because that requires you to take time out of your day on a daily or weekly basis to create and to upload content on social media. And that will take you out of whatever it is you're spending your time doing, if it's your full-time job or other tasks, and force you to spend time uploading content on a regular basis. That is a waste of time. If we batch content in advance, we can schedule everything out, and then we don't actually need to do anything in regards to content creation for weeks or sometimes even even months, right? Now is the perfect time for me to talk to you about Later, who I mentioned is a sponsor of today's video, because Later is my #1 tool for scheduling out content on social media. Like, I cannot express how much I rely on Later when it comes to my consistency. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes of what my Later currently looks like, specifically for my Instagram channel. Okay, so here you can see my Later account, showing you a bit behind the scenes. At the top, you can also see that my Pinterest account is linked. So what's really cool about Later is you can actually schedule content across multiple accounts. But let's just focus on my Instagram for now. This is what the back end of my Later looks like. And if I change my view to month, you'll be able to see all of my content that I have scheduled out on Later for the next month and a half. Is that a month and a half? Oh my god, I can't do date math. It's for a while, right? We've got a couple weeks worth of content here. So what you're seeing is all of the content that I've got scheduled. If we click on one post, for example, this one that I'm going to be sharing tomorrow on Friday, you'll see that not only have I created the content already in advance, I've uploaded it onto Later, and I've already written my caption. So it's really important that when you're batching your content to really get the most out of this process, that you schedule every element of your content so that when it's time for it to be posted, you literally don't need to think about it. So for a lot of us, writing captions can be quite difficult, especially when we're trying to do it on the fly. So I like to write my captions in Later too. So I literally have 4 weeks worth of captions pre-written, so that when it comes time to post, I'm not sitting there thinking, oh my god, what am I going to say that's insightful? Because that's so hard to do on the spot. I know a lot of you will be watching this thinking, yeah, that's really difficult. This is how I do it. I use Later, right? So as you can see, I've already written my caption, and they also have really cool features like saved captions if you like to use a similar format for your captions, hashtag suggestions, and a new feature, which is an AI caption writer. You can also do other things like add a location, a link in bio, even add your first comment. Now, one thing to note is that there's 2 different ways to post on Later. You can either send a notification, which basically means that I'll get a notification saying, hey, it's time to post, here's the content, here's the caption, I press a couple of clicks and then it's live on my channel. Or you can change it to auto publish, which basically means that your content will go live without you having to do anything at all. I like to use auto publish when I'm on holiday because I just don't really want to think about it, right? It just means my content's going out and I don't need to think much. But when I'm working and I'm at home, I use the notification option because then it gives me a bit more control over what's going out and when. Sometimes, especially with my niche and my industry, I might be sharing information that is now outdated because social media changes so quickly. So this just means that I can look over everything before I actually hit the publish button. Also, one of my favorite features of Later, because I'm a visual person, is the preview tab. The preview tab basically allows you to look at all of the content that you have scheduled to go live over the next few weeks and just make sure you like the look of it. So here you can see that the content that's already gone live has the little Instagram logo on it. Anything that's got this cross basically means that it's not gone live yet, and therefore I can move it around. For example, I could drag this, drop it there, drag this, drop it there, and just move it around until I'm happy with the changes that I've made. One of my absolute favorite things about Later that I'll show you really quickly is their analytics features. If you hit on the analytics button, it's basically going to show you a profile summary, but also depending on your plan, you'll be able to get further insights, such as insights on your post performance. So here you'll be able to see some of my posts, the engagement that I received per post, which is incredibly valuable when it comes to you analyzing what content your audience genuinely likes to engage with, the amount of followers I had at the time of posting, in addition to further metrics like the likes and the comments that you received. So I find this super useful when I'm trying to do a top line analysis of my content and have a look at how it's performing. So you can get access to those analytics in addition to loads of additional analytics depending on the plan that you join. So if you're ready to get more consistent on social media, to really take control of your scheduling, your planning, and your social media strategy, then I really recommend checking out Later. Of course, the link to join Later will be available in the description of this video. Okay, tip number 3. This is the one that I alluded to previously when I was like, this is the #1 quickest way to grow on social media, without a doubt, and people don't talk about it enough. Cross-platform promotion is the quickest way to grow, hands down. What that basically is when you use another social media site, ideally one that you're getting more traffic on, to promote one of your other channels. Perfect example, my YouTube channel is my best channel on social media. I think a big reason for that is that I talk a lot and therefore I find it difficult to cut my content down for any other platform, right? I need at least 10 minutes to get my point across. So because my YouTube channel performs so much better than my other channels, I will promote my other channels through my YouTube channel. I will do that by putting my Instagram handle at the start of my video. videos. I put links to my other channels in the description of my YouTube content, right? I refer back to my other channels on a regular basis, which means that some people will find me from my YouTube content and then follow me on Instagram or TikTok or Pinterest, right? In other examples, I've worked with clients who get a lot more traffic and a lot more eyeballs on TikTok, right? A lot of people get a lot more traffic on TikTok. If you're one of those people, find a way to promote your other platforms. Tell your audience that you have an Instagram, that you have a YouTube, but not only that, incentivize them and give them a reason to actually follow you on one of those other channels, right? So if you're creating content on TikTok and you know it's going to be seen by more people than the content you create on Instagram, why not tell your audience, by the way guys, head over to my Instagram to see the behind the scenes of me filming this video. Or by the way guys, I share more tips on my Instagram stories. Give someone a reason to check out your other social media platform and tell them that you have it. One of the biggest, most simplest ways for you to do this, but a lot of people don't do it, link to your other channels. In your bio, right, or in your channel banner, whatever platform you're on, you should have links to your other channels. You will find my TikTok, my Instagram, my Pinterest, my YouTube on any of my platforms, whether it's in the link in bio or on the channel banner, wherever it is. If you want to find me on another platform, you will find me on that other platform, right? You've got to tell people that you have these other social media sites. And honestly, when you get good at cross-platform promotion and when you're able to identify which of your social media channels are driving the most traffic for you, that is when you're really able to unlock a lot of growth, right? There's two caveats that I want you to keep in mind here. The first is that if this tactic is going to work for you, you need to make sure that you're sharing content that is slightly different on your other channels. If you are sharing the same short form video on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, it is going to be very difficult to get someone to follow you on one of those other platforms, because why should they if your content is exactly the same across all of them? Like, what's the point? However, if your content is slightly different, maybe the style is slightly different, maybe the topic is slightly different, whatever that change might be, then you can confidently ask someone to follow you on another channel because they'll be getting something slightly different if they go ahead and do that. The other caveat is that I don't recommend that you open up another social media channel solely for the purpose of trying to use it to grow other platforms that you're on. I always tell people that you need to master one social media platform before you move on to another. And what I mean by that is you need to get to a point with one social media platform where creating content feels easy and you are naturally, organically growing. Doesn't have to be by a lot, but you are growing. Once you get to a point when you feel that way, then it's time to move on to the next channel, right? Because otherwise, if you try to do too many channels at once and you haven't quite learned how to master them yet, you won't be doing any of them properly and you won't end up seeing any traction on any of them. Tip number 4, sometimes quantity is better than quality. I know that's not what you're used to hearing and it hurts me to say it, but sometimes it's true. Now, let me just preface. What's that word? Preface this? I don't know. Let me just flag before we get into this that a certain level of quality is always required. So having good audio visual is always required. And what that basically means is that the quality of the video or photo is good and that people can hear you if you're speaking in it, right? The audio visual always has to be a certain level of quality for it to do well on any social media platform. So let's just get that out of the way. Now, the truth is that there are some situations where quantity is actually better than quality. For some of us, we've already got a good level of quality down, and what we end up doing is obsessing over creating the highest quality, perfect post to a point where it stops us from sharing content. And there'll be some of you listening being like, oh my God, that's definitely the situation that I'm in right now. So we tell ourselves, okay, we want to be perfect before we start, or I don't want to post this week because whatever I've created is not flawless yet. And that actually goes against our progress because we're not sharing content at all. And the reality is that the more content you create, the better your content gets because you're practicing. So for people in that specific scenario, so this isn't for everyone, but people in that specific scenario, it's actually better for you to follow the done is better than perfect model and start focusing on the quantity of content that you're sharing, because that is actually going to be the thing that helps you improve the quality of your content over time. Okay, tip number 5 is definitely controversial, and this is why I left it to the end, because I feel like if you're still with me by this point, then you're not that likely to get mad at me in the comments. So the actual tip is that controversy sells. Fun fact, I always get confused how to pronounce this, if it's controversy or controversy, and I think it's one like American way of saying it. I don't know, just keep with me. If I switch between the two, just ignore it. What I'm trying to say here is that when you talk about something that is somewhat controversial, you actually are massively increasing the chances that people are going to click on it and that they're going to engage with it. Now, the caveat here, there's always a caveat with everything nowadays, but the caveat here is that I'm obviously not saying you should say something offensive. There's a difference between something that's controversial and something that's offensive. So please, please, please do not create something for the sole purpose of offending someone. I do not condone that in any way, shape or form. When I'm referring to something that's controversial, I'm talking about a subject that is related to you, your brand, your niche, whoever you are, that you know sparks conversation. So for me and my industry, if someone in my industry talks about money, that is usually going to spark conversation, and that content is usually going to perform better than their other content, just broadly speaking. I once worked with a client who said that when she creates content about her menstrual cycle, it performs a lot better than our other content, because people, annoyingly, I don't think, like, this is one of those things where I'm like, why is this even classed as something remotely controversial to talk about? But it is, and people engage with it. It gets a lot of traction. So ask yourself, is there something related to you, your niche, your personality, the type of content that you create that you have noticed gets a lot more traction and a lot more buzz about it than some of the other topics that you talk about? And if that's the case and you feel comfortable talking about that topic, why not make a conscious effort to actually include that more frequently as part of your content strategy? More often than not, when you do this well, it can actually result in your content getting a lot more views. One last thing to flag with that one is, more often than not, those types of content can actually spark negative response. So just be aware of that, because if you're someone who doesn't want to invite people who have opposing thoughts or opinions than you to your social media channels, then this might not be a tip that you want to follow. Okay guys, those are my tips. Before you go, I really recommend checking out this video. It's all about ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT, you've probably heard about it, but it's going to revolutionize the way that we work as content creators. And in this video, I give you a full breakdown of how you can use it to become a better content creator. Don't forget to head to my description to check out later. It is a game-changing tool for content creators. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, can't wait to see you in my next one.